Imagine building a perfect life with someone, planning a child, a home, a future, only to discover that the person you trusted most has been lying to your face for months. Imagine finding out he wasn't just lying, he was hiding tens of thousands of dollars while lecturing you about buying groceries. That's exactly where I found myself, holding my 4-week-old daughter in my arms, staring at a secret bank account my husband hoped I'd never uncover. And the moment I confronted him, he broke down crying. But this time, I didn't care, because what he did, it changed everything. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, or if you've ever wished for a perfectly delivered dose of justice, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because today's story isn't just about betrayal. It's about a woman who discovers the truth and chooses herself, her daughter, and her future over a man's manipulation. For most of my adult life, I believed I had cracked the code to a stable, predictable future. My husband and I met when we were 19, young, broke, and completely convinced that love was enough to conquer everything. And honestly, for a long time it felt like we were right. We didn't rush anything. Not careers, not marriage, and definitely not children. We planned every detail of our life like two people who'd seen too much chaos in the world and wanted nothing but structure. A child? Absolutely, just one. But only after every box was checked. We spent years crafting this timeline. Buy the house. Build the savings. Build the investments. Build the emergency funds. Make sure I could stay home full-time once we became parents. His reasoning was solid, painfully so. His brother had died as a baby under the care of a daycare worker in 2017. The trauma never left him. I understood. I supported him fully. And because of that, I agreed to stay home once we had a child. No daycare, ever. So we built everything around that goal. And finally, 2 years ago, the dream became real. $500,000 in investments, multiple savings accounts, a house, even a boat. We checked every box. We celebrated. We finally started trying for our baby. And when our daughter arrived 4 weeks ago, healthy, perfect, with bright, curious eyes, I genuinely believed our life had reached its peak. But everything began unraveling the moment the phone rang. Part 2, the first crack in the foundation. It was a call from DHHS, routine, boring, administrative. They were reviewing whether our daughter qualified for state insurance based on our income. I expected the answer to be no. We'd planned our financial life meticulously, after all. But then the woman on the phone said something that made my stomach tighten. Well, based on your husband's income of $10,920 monthly gross, you're above the threshold. I froze. I replayed the number in my head. $10,920 monthly gross. That wasn't what he'd been telling me. For months, he told me he made $6,000 a month after taxes. Barely enough, he claimed, to justify our extremely frugal lifestyle. He made comments like, "That's too much for steak right now. We should stick to chicken for a while. No point wasting money." I didn't argue. We had a baby. We were planning long term. We were careful with money. But now the numbers weren't adding up. Not even close. I felt something cold slide down my spine. Confusion first, then disbelief, then the slow burn of dread. When I got off the phone, I didn't think. I simply acted. I walked to his office, opened his laptop, something I had every right to do, considering we always treated finances as shared, and logged in. What I found, I can't forget, ever. His take-home pay wasn't $6,000. It was over $8,500 every single month. And the difference, the extra $2,500 to $3,000, it didn't go into our joint account. It went into an account I had never seen, under his name only, with a balance of $45,000. I remember staring at the screen, my pulse thudding in my ears, my chest tightening, not because of the money itself, but because of the deception. We built our future together. We made every decision together. We planned our child together, and while I had poured every dollar I ever earned into our shared life, he quietly carved out a life of financial independence for himself. A life I wasn't part of. A life he could run to. A life he could hide in. That's when something inside me cracked. Part 3, the confrontation. When he walked through the door that evening, I was already seated at the kitchen table, laptop open, screenshots up. I'd rehearsed the confrontation in my head, but when I saw him, the words vanished. All I managed was, "Why?" He looked confused, genuinely confused, until his eyes followed mine to the screen. He froze, color drained from his face. His jaw tightened. His hands shook. Then he whispered, "I can explain." "Explain why you've been lying to me for months?" I said, "Explain why you hid thousands of dollars while telling me we couldn't afford steak." His face crumpled. He broke down crying instantly. I just wanted something that was mine," he choked out. "Everything is shared. Everything is ours. I needed something that felt like it belonged to me. I stared at him. He didn't say he saved it for emergencies. He didn't say he was planning something for us. He didn't say he was scared, overwhelmed, traumatized, or confused. He said he wanted something that was his. Meanwhile, he'd been using my money, our money, like it was nothing, while hiding his own, while building a safety net I didn't know existed, while preparing for a future he apparently didn't want to share. My anger wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, cold, sharp. You want something that's yours? I said, fine, you can have it. Because now, I'm having something that's mine too. What are you talking about? He asked, voice shaky. I'm going back to work, I said. I'm putting our daughter in daycare. The panic in his eyes was immediate and visceral. Their baby died in daycare. His trauma was real, but so was my fear of being financially at his mercy. No, he said, sobbing harder. You promised. And you promised transparency. You promised partnership. You promised honesty. He reached for me. I pulled my hand away. I'm done making myself vulnerable to someone who lies to me, I said. I'm going back to work, and I don't care if you cry about it. Part 4, Escalation and Aftermath. The days that followed weren't peaceful. He apologized constantly, every morning, every night, every time our eyes met. He said he wasn't cheating, wasn't leaving, wasn't planning anything against me. But he refused to explain why he hid the money. Real explanations, not excuses, not deflections. When people lie about money, it almost always means they're hiding something bigger. And my brain spiraled. Was he building an escape fund? Was he preparing to leave once the baby came? Was he planning for custody battles? Was he planning for control? Every scenario gnawed at me, keeping me awake at night. One morning, while I fed our daughter, I caught him looking at me with this expression, this mixture of guilt, fear, and something else I couldn't name. That's when I realized the truth. He didn't regret hiding the money. He regretted getting caught. And that made everything worse. Part 5, The Turning Point. The moment everything shifted wasn't explosive. It was simple. He asked quietly, "Are you going to leave me?" And I realized he wasn't worried about us. He wasn't worried about our baby. He was worried I'd take half those savings. He was worried about losing control. Something inside me hardened. "I'm not leaving," I said. "But I'm not staying vulnerable." He didn't understand. Not yet. He would. Part 6, The Revenge, Emotional Not Cruel. Revenge doesn't always look like a dramatic explosion. Sometimes, revenge is reclaiming your independence, your strength, your security. So I did exactly that. I contacted my old employer, updated my resume, started scheduling interviews, called 3 reputable, home-based newborn care providers instead of daycare centers, began separating my finances, opened my own savings account, redirected all future tax refunds into my name only, and insisted we meet with a financial counselor, one who specializes in marital transparency agreements. He hated that. He hated every minute of it, because for the first time in our entire relationship, he didn't hold the financial power. The man who squirreled away $45,000 while lecturing me about grocery bills now had to explain his finances in front of a professional. And let me tell you, watching him squirm, stumbling over explanations, trying to justify the unjustifiable, that was the payoff. That was the moment. That was justice. Not petty, not cruel, but balanced. Natural consequences, fair consequences, long overdue consequences. In the end, the counselor looked directly at him and said, "Hiding money from your spouse while using their income is financial betrayal. You need to understand the damage that causes." He cried again, but this time, it wasn't my problem. Part 7, Reflection. The truth is, I don't know what the future holds. Trust once broken isn't rebuilt overnight, especially when a child depends on stability. But I do know this. Love without transparency is manipulation. Sacrifice without reciprocity is exploitation. And a promise is meaningless without honesty. He wanted something that was his. Now, I want something that's mine too. My independence, my career, my financial stability, my daughter's security. And he can cry about it. But that won't stop me. Not anymore. If this story hit you in the chest, if you felt that twist of anger or that rush of satisfaction, make sure to hit drop a comment with your thoughts. And subscribe for more stories just like this. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you found a secret bank account?